is a bit of a strange video in the sense that you won't get to see me finish the project I'm going to start today. It basically concerns this box I made a few months ago, or I started to make, but as you can tell from the title it went very wrong somewhere along the line, and we'll get to all that later on. I think it's worth sharing some things I do, and maybe you can learn something hopefully. At the end I'll show you this box as it is now, and I'll also show you what happened with this one here. In the meantime, please enjoy the video and let me know what you think at the end. Thanks. I decided to make my box size from the length of elm I purchased a year ago at a woodworking show. My intention was to make these boxes for Christmas last year, but obviously that never quite happened. I chose to use English cherry for the bases, and these are resawn from the length of 1 inch thick cherry on the bandsaw. These lengths of ash will speak up the top, and they are short, but they're not too short that they can't get through my planer mixer. I used a trend depth gauge to set the height of the cutter, and also to set the depth of my slots. So now I can go ahead and cut the 2 grooves, top and bottom, for my sides. This operation would have been easier had I used a pair of feather balls at least. As you'll see, it left a slightly splintered edge to this elm, but sanding the internal faces with a belt sander took care of that. Next it was time to cut some mitres, and for that I set my mitre cutting jig from the previous video into my mitre saw station. With that I added a pair of tall sacrificial fences to provide workpiece support. And this first cut now creates a zero clearance. When using this jig, it's important to remember to set the depth so you do not cut through the base of it. As before, I use a clamp to keep my hands clear and out of the way of the blade. I find it useful to mark the direction of each mitre to avoid mistakes. And then on the bandsaw I can rough cut each component to about 1mm over length. That's one downside I found with this jig, is that the offcuts have little room to escape, so they end up getting trapped between the blade and the fence and fired out at high speed. And here we have one mitre cut on the end of each component. Before cutting these components to final length, I decided to remove the bulk of the waste of each mitre to avoid some of that kickback and the projectiles you saw earlier. And this is quite simply how I use a length stop on my mitre saw jig. So it's basically a thin ball of timber clamped to the bed of the jig, and the end of the mitre butts up to that. Grain continuity is exactly what I was looking for. A very handy tip is to use tape to dry assemble a box like this. You can even use it to hold the mitres in place while you apply glue to aid in your final assembly as well. I decided to book match the boards for the ash lids, and these had to be jointed together carefully. For some reason I thought that adding masking tape and lots of weight would be enough to hold these joints together. I wasn't at all happy with the quality of the glue joint, so I recut the joint and rejointed it and reassembled it with clamps. Here I'm basically breaking through a scrap piece of MDF to create a zero clearance fence on my router table. This will allow me to cut rebates from small pieces without them tilting and turning into the cutter, which could ruin them. So I start by routing the end grain, and I keep these pieces as long and as wide as possible. They can be trimmed sized later on once I've worked on achieving that perfect fit first. As you can probably see, this bit's not bad at all. By routing across the end grain first, I can then remove breakout later by routing with the grain down the long edges. I wasn't looking for a perfect fit with this lid, instead I wanted a slight reveal around the inside edges of the box. And after all that sanding, I gave each piece a coat of shellac sanding sealer on the inside faces. And then came the glue up. I always like to use a ratchet strap with some corner blocks to assemble mitred boxes and frames like this.
The corners look good. I used a pair of bar gauge heads to check the internal diagonal measurements. But then it suddenly dawned on me that I'd forgotten to include the lid and the base when I glued the box up. So I had to try and break it apart.
Oh no.
Full credit to Type Bond here because these are simply end grain to end grain joints with no reinforcement. It took some forcing to get them apart. But I got it all right on the second attempt. I tried using a ruler to position the lid carefully before the glue set. These mitres weren't quite as perfect as the second time around, so I had to level them carefully with a block plane. But in the end I turned to my belt sander for help. I made this jig a few years ago, and this is only the second occasion where I've actually used it. It basically allows you to cut dovetail splines into the corners of boxes using a router. The trickiest part in using this jig has always been deciding how to keep it stable and use it on the workbench. It's very important to plunge down to your full depth before you start your router up, and again to keep it down until the router stops spinning.
Okay, so here is the part finished box. The lid's on there correctly, the base is in there as well. I think with this one it was mostly the flatness of the top, whereas that side's all finished with lacquer, not lacquer, shellac sanding sealer. This side's been stripped back to its finish, where I've had to plane it flush and get it flat. But it's anything but flat. So where I was hoping to use this on my jig to cut some more splines, it just wasn't going to happen, because if that's not flat, then these aren't really going to be parallel, are they? This one here is one that happened, well, that's an incident that happened off camera. Yeah, it's in pieces for a good reason. In fact, I've lost the other end to this, I don't know where it is. But that was the lid panel, which is something like that. That's the base, that's still intact. These are okay, but the glue joints didn't last. What happened was which way did it go? Yeah, I was routing out, there we go. No, there's another end to this, isn't there? I was routing out these dovetail splines, and after cutting like the second one here, or the third one, I realised that it was off. It wasn't where I wanted it. I was going to make a join there to make the. I was going to make a slot there to separate the lid from the rest of it. So I got a bit frustrated. I picked it up as an assembled box, slammed it on the workbench like so, and it just obliterated itself. And I kind of left it at that after picking it up off the floor. It's just, I put it to one side. I think sometimes you have to do that, just put things to one side and let it go, really. I did also cut this jig down onto size, so I've used it on my router table, but that's not really going to happen. So if you have enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up. If you have any comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you again on the next video. Thank you.